Saint Ignatius of Loyola was born in Loyola, Spain in 1491. He was brought into the world with 12 older siblings, and he lived in a castle in which he was brought up as a knight. He served some time as a page at court because winning was his personal passion. In his early years, Saint Ignatius was a womanizer, a fancy dresser, an expert dancer, sensitive to insult, and a rough swordsman who used his high status to escape prosecution for violent crimes. Ignatius's longing will to win was both good and bad, because it caused his downfall as a naive young knight and helped him rise to be the Saint Ignatius who influenced the Jesuits. But let me rewind a little and tell you how the story goes. During the battle at Pamplona against the French, Ignatius was clearly outnumbered and basically defeated. Instead of surrendering to the French forces, he decided to keep fighting back. Eventually, he was struck in the knee by a cannonball that ripped it open and shattered his shin. His Spanish troops, with a severely injured leader, decided to surrender. Because the French were so inspired by Ignatius's bravery and strong will, they helped his wounds and brought him back to Loyola for rehabilitation. While Ignatius was recovering from his injuries, he wanted to pass the time. He requested books to read. He wanted to read books about the romance of chivalry. Instead, he was given books about the life of Christ and famous saints, which were the only two books available for him. Even though he was reading these books, he still dreamed of chivalry. However, he also started to dream about how he could become a saint. He believed that God was drawing him away from his chivalry dreams and wanted Ignatius to start acting like a saint. Once Ignatius recovered, he went to Manresa. He then had the chance to get on a boat that would take him to Rome, where it would then take him to the Holy Land. However, he decided to stay in Manresa for a little while. He ended up staying in Manresa for 10 months. He traded his well-made clothes for the clothes of a beggar. He went to a cave every day for these 10 months to do insights on himself and God. He then tried once again to go to the Holy Land, but was rejected by the church to do this. So he decided to go to the Mount of Olives to see where Christ ascended into heaven. After Ignatius finished his physical and mental recovery, he began his conversion into being a devout Christian. Ignatius stressed education very much. Ignatius believed that true knowledge came from 3 sources: God's intervention, the Bible, and church. In the time period Ignatius lived, all religious services and writings were done in Latin. This meant that 33-year-old Ignatius would have to join a class of 10-year-olds to learn Latin. It probably hurt his pride a little bit, but Ignatius was determined to change his life for the better. After Ignatius spent 2 years learning Latin, he traveled to Alcala and Salamanca to study at the universities there. While Ignatius traveled and studied, he preached and taught his ideas and philosophies. Many were captivated by his stories and visions, especially Francis Xavier and Peter Faber. He soon recruited more of his peers to join his mission. The 11 Jesuits in counting wanted to start the confirmation and spread of their practices in the Holy Land, but could not go there because of the Turkish wars. With Jerusalem out of the question, the companions headed to Rome. On the way, Ignatius had a vision that he was working alongside Jesus. This later inspired the name of which they went by, the Society of Jesus. Their overall goal was to serve Jesus, so they made their home on the road and were wherever they could spread his teachings the most, or where they were needed the most. This is why Jesuits are known for working amongst the cities, because that is where they can spread the teachings of Jesus to the most people. In 1540, the Pope finally approved the Society of Jesus, and the Jesuit order was born. They adopted the motto Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam, or AMDG, which means for the greater glory of God. And all of the missions were based around this central idea. Saint Ignatius has influenced many things today. The choices he made in his early life and life as a saint are both very important. If he hadn't shattered his knee in battle, he might not have followed the path to becoming a saint. And more importantly than becoming a saint, he showed the change for the better that one can make. Once St. Ignatius made it to sainthood and established a Jesuit society, his influence of education and AMDG, or living for the greater glory of God, became very important. AMDG is not only important because he taught it, but he also lived by it. As for education, today there are 28 Jesuit colleges and universities across the United States that honor Ignatius's legacy and strive to live by his words every day.
Created using Powtoon.